Speaking of big deal, it is always a big deal to have our friend James Fletcher on the show, and we appreciate him stopping by this morning to do some bracketology with you guys on All Access AM. James, good to see you this morning. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. Happy to be here and talking about some bracketology, some updates coming later today at On Three. So you guys are gonna get kind of the first look here of what we've got coming out just here in about an hour or two.
You last time you released a bracketology update, it was a few days ago. You had a new number one overall seed. Will there be a new number one overall seed today?
I think that they've done enough to hold on to it for the time being. Arizona, of course, remains undefeated. They put together a big win against BYU on the road, so that's going to do wonders for their resume. And while Michigan, yes, did follow up that shift with a win on at home, against Nebraska, I think that Arizona is going to hold on to that top spot. And really, it's interesting because the timing that we have these bracketology updates, it can really make a big difference. Because if I had updated the bracket just before that Michigan-Nebraska game, Duke probably would have had that number 2 overall seed. That's how close these top seeds have gotten over the past couple of weeks. But as it stands, Michigan beats Nebraska, formerly undefeated. Looks like they're right up in the mix. So they will just hold on to that number 2 overall seed for now, as of this morning, but they've got a tough schedule coming up. Duke has some opportunities, and so there's nothing set in stone yet. Even Arizona, they could, if they take a loss, be moved down the board with those other 2 right behind them as things stand right now.
How much does Duke's win over Louisville and the way they did it and the margin they did it impact them as far as how you look at them for a potential number 1 overall seed? Because of course they're sitting on the number 1 seed line right now, but how much does that change things in their regard?
Yeah, it's very important. You want to see them get big wins. Of course, that's why Michigan had so much of a buffer earlier in the season that when they took their first loss, they held on to the number 1 overall seed for some amount of time. It was that 40-point win against Gonzaga. It was the 40-point win against Auburn. Those were the ones that had boosted not just their resume. We look at a couple of things when we're putting together the bracket. There's the resume on paper. That's when we look at the quadrant system and how many quad 1 wins versus how many quad 2 losses, things like that as we go down the list. But then there's going to come a point where you're going to have to evaluate not just that, but the eye test as well. That plays a role. And of course, a 40-point win, a big win like Duke had against Louisville, beating the team twice the way that Duke did against Louisville, that's going to play a role. And then you get into the analytics. You start looking at the KenPom data. You look at the net rankings, Bart Torvik's numbers. Wins above the bubble is an important one in the past couple of years that we've seen emerge and have some sway. So it does a lot for the analytics when you blow out a team, particularly a team that is thought of highly by the numbers. Now, there's 2 sides to that coin, because the kind of interesting dilemma that you always face in analytics is, well, if I blow out a team that was considered to be really good, yes, it's going to boost my numbers, but it's going to knock down their numbers. So I'm almost, the more that I win by, making the win look less impressive to the computers. So it's a weird balance there that you have to find. But yes, it does do a lot for them to put together a big win, because a big win implies that you had good offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency, and you put those things together into a result that will reflect across all of those data points that I'm looking at.
And NC State, speaking of big wins, that's another one that, getting that win over Clemson, seeing the stock go up for Will Wade's crew in bracketology. I mean, what's your takeaway as far as where they stand now, after some key wins, sitting at 27th in the net?
Yeah, I think that they've been a big riser. Had them as one of the winners of the past week or so in my last Bubble Watch update just yesterday, because I think that Will Wade's team early in the season, we saw them looking for their identity. We saw them searching, and even into the new year, into the ACC schedule, we kind of got the feeling that if they put it together, they're going to start rising, but they've still got some pieces, just some familiarity that they need to create. Well, I'm not sure if they've perfected things, but the computers love what they've been doing recently. They've shot up the board, like you said, inside the top 30 in most of the key metrics that they need to be. And so they're really rising up the board quickly and getting out of the bubble conversation more into the conversation of teams that are into the field at this point. That Clemson win obviously did wonders for them too on that paper resume that I was talking about. That's a quad one win for now. And then you look at the rest of the schedule and you say, all right, they've got more opportunities to build this thing up and really lock themselves into the field here.
When you look at a team like UNC now that they've gotten that back on track, beat Virginia, that I think in terms of the overall ACC picture really helps. That really puts, teams kind of maybe beating each other up a little bit, and kind of creating that good group that could go into the field. I mean, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 into the field right now, 2 on the bubble and 3 still in the picture. This league shows its depth. And despite UNC going out to Cal and Stanford and losing those games, they're right back in a more, not that they were out or on the bubble, but a more stable situation following that win over Virginia.
Yeah, it was an important one for them to get because not only was it 2 losses that don't look particularly good on your resume against Cal and Stanford, but it was also 2 losses that really hurt their defensive metrics. That's a team that was struggling on that end of the floor, and they didn't fully right the ship against Virginia, but getting a win against a top team is going to give you the boost that you need across the other 2 areas and really kind of paper over some of those issues as they continue to try to fix the defense. I think that they've shown little pieces and little strides, but still more work to go on that end of the floor. And that's really going to determine how high they can get seated and also how far they can go in the NCAA tournament. I think that they're a team that has a clear flaw that they have the opportunity to patch up, the opportunity to keep fixing as we go through this season. It'll be interesting to see how well they're able to correct that going into the postseason, because this is a team that on offense, yes, they are right up there and can compete with anyone as long as they've got things going on the other end of the floor.
Miami with Jai Lucas has been kind of a revelation here, getting into such a bounce back year for that program as a whole. They're sitting on the bubble for you. What do you see as far as the team goes that still needs to be worked out to move them into the field if they can do X, Y, and Z on the floor? Obviously, you've got to get some key wins for this program as well, but they've just kind of been chipping away here. I mean, they're probably an early favorite for a number 1 seed in the NIT at worst.
Yeah, Miami's an interesting one to kind of gauge here because they're 17-4, so really good record at this point in the season, but they don't have the big wins. That's what's kind of holding them back. They're on the right side of the bubble here, don't get me wrong. When we talk about the bubble at this point in the season with over a month left to go, we're really talking about teams from the 9 seed line all the way down through the next 4 out. So it's a pretty wide range there to consider them in the bubble mix. And the reason that I make such a wide bubble market here is because they're 1 loss away from falling potentially a full seed line because of how tight it is across those competitors. So if you're Miami, you've got to string together meaningful wins. I think it's about winning at the right time if you want to rise your stock above that conversation. But in the meantime, I think that they've got everything they need to land inside the field. Jay Lucas has done an incredible job in that first season, getting that ship where it needs to be. This program is clearly headed in the right direction. They've got some exciting young talent, and I'm interested to see down the stretch, can they put together, like I said, wins against the Dukes, the Virginias, the teams that are going to give you a full seed jump the other direction. Can you pick up enough of those wins in order to get yourself into the 6, 7, 8 seed conversations rather than 9, 10, and then risking being in that 11 seed conversation right on the bubble?
How do you look at a Virginia Tech team that I feel like is just right there, has had some heartbreaking losses that are certainly going to impact them on their resume, but nonetheless, they appear to be a team that it should be and is on a bubble and in that kind of world as far as at least having an opportunity to earn its way into the field. But at the end of the day, they just have come up short multiple times. And those close losses, they probably have to, I would say, help in terms of analytics. Like, you're not getting blown out really, but at the end of the day, wins and losses still matter.
Yeah, they are firmly in the first four out mix, and they are one of the many teams on the bubble that has greatly benefited by just how few teams have capitalized on opportunities at the bubble. You look at these teams, and really the bubble hasn't shifted. The teams that are in each position might have shifted, but the base kind of from your last four buys down through your next four out, those teams have not really shifted in terms of which names we're talking about. There's no one who's capitalizing below them and raising their stock into the conversation. And there's nobody who's been up in the field who has dropped their stock enough that they've allowed one of them up into that next tier. So we're talking about a pretty consistent group of teams throughout the year. And so you're having to lean, yes, on those analytics. So that's what's helped Virginia Tech stay into that mix as strongly as they have to this point. Like you said, they're right on the cusp. They've got the opportunity to have a breakthrough here down the stretch. They're going to need to, though, because nobody is really differentiating themselves to that point. You know that somebody's going to break out. Somebody's going to have a string of good results. And so if you're them and you're already on the wrong side of things, just barely at this point, you're going to need to give yourself a boost and differentiate yourself somehow, make yourself stand out, or you're going to be really sweating things out on Selection Sunday.
Do you think Louisville and do you see them making any kind of a run moving up into the bracket a little bit more, or are you starting to see a little bit of like red flags popping up with the Cardinals?
I think they're a difficult one to pin down still at this point because Mikel Brown, to be honest, we just haven't seen a whole lot of. He's dealt with injuries throughout the season, even when he has been healthy on the floor. We've seen kind of a dichotomy in terms of his performances. We've seen really good, pretty efficient 20-point type performances where he looks like he's kind of controlling the game, the five-star prospect, the potential top 10 pick that we've expected him to be entering the season. And then you see him in a couple of other games, this Duke one being kind of the chief among them, where you think, man, he is really kind of struggling as a freshman to find ways in big games to put up big numbers. Now, that's to be expected from a guy who is both coming off of injury and a freshman figuring out the game, but it's still going to be very important. They've put a lot of trust in him to run this offense. I think at the big position, they're facing similar issues where you just look at that center position and they don't have a dominant force. They've got good role players. They've got people who can hold it down. But when you face the best teams in college basketball, sometimes you're going to need a difference maker at either the point guard or the center position. They're going to have to either get a big leap out of Mikel Brown or get just a rising from the group as a whole if they're going to make any kind of deep run. But yes, they're still a really solid team. We're talking about, can they be in that inner circle of contenders at this point? And they've just got something missing from that.
Is it Duke and everybody else in this league of the ACC? And do you see, I don't want to say any way, but any way that they don't come away with the conference championship in Charlotte in a few months?
Now, here's the thing. A conference tournament can go all kinds of different ways. Who knows how that will play out? I definitely think that in a conference tournament setting where it's a single elimination bracket, you're playing day after day, there's no question that a team could beat Duke. Virginia is plenty good. We know about the Duke-UNC rivalry and how that just ramps things to a whole different level for both sides. So maybe you get the best defensive performance of the year out of a UNC team that's really playing for something. Who knows? Who's to say? You've even seen other teams in the ACC who have gotten close. There's a lot of talent in this league. None of it is constructed as well together or kind of as cohesive at this point in the season as what Duke has. That's for sure. But there's teams out there that I think can give Duke a run that could definitely beat them in a single elimination. Now, if we're talking about the regular season title, I think that's pretty much wrapped up by Duke. They are, like I said, very consistent, going out there night in, night out. They've got their steady force in Cam Boozer. They've got some veteran pieces around him that have kind of held down the ship, because this Duke team as good as they are, as much as we're talking about them as a potential number one overall seed in the NCAA tournament, they've had a couple of guys that have not provided as much as they thought they would. Dame Sarr, Nicholas Kamenia have both been real hit or miss pieces on the wing there for them. And they've just kind of papered things back together around that with the veterans, with the freshmen who have come in and have made an impact. So this is a team that there's only potential for them to get even better if they can get one of those two guys right down the stretch. So yeah, I think that they're the regular season heavy favorites. In the conference tournament, they're definitely the favorites, but it's a single elimination tournament. Anything can happen there. You never know, especially this far out.
And this weekend, another good group of ACC games in action. SMU at Louisville, 1 p.m. Central, ESPN. What's your preview of that game? I think SMU is a team that, when their guard play is on, when Boopy Miller's on, they're going to be really tough to beat in this league. We even saw them without Boopy Miller kind of hang around against Duke at Cameron Indoor. Louisville with Michael Brown back now. This is shaping up to be such a fun matchup, I think, up there at the Yum Center.
Yeah, I'm really excited. This is kind of my marquee matchup for the ACC this weekend, because two teams that could really use an impressive win on their resume to kind of raise the stock. SMU is really sneaky, I think, in the ACC. I think it's part to do with they're still the new kid in town in that conference. And yes, they've had great runs in football. They've had great runs in basketball. But we're just not used to talking about them as one of the top teams in this conference yet. But here they are, and they keep performing on a regular basis. They cannot be slept on, and they're a team that has not gotten the national recognition to this point, but they are fully capable. They've got the point guard play. They've got the bigs to match up, and they're going up against a Louisville team that, like I said, some inconsistencies that have popped up. So it's going to be interesting to see if SMU can go in there on the road and pick up a win. It will be huge for their resume down the stretch. If Louisville can kind of right things after another Duke loss, that would be important for them as they start to try to build back up and get Mikel Brown and that group on the right track to re-enter the conversation as a contender.
Duke at Virginia Tech, too, at 11 a.m. Central on ESPN. That's a fun one, I think, to watch. That, again, you talk about a program that's really looking for a signature win. Could Virginia Tech get that done against Duke? That would be massive for the Hokies. But you got to like Duke in obviously every single matchup. That's just one that also stuck out to me looking at the schedule for Saturday.
Yeah, that's one where I'm definitely going to have that one on because I want to see Neokilis Avdalis play against top-level competition. He's not only a rising star as a freshman in the ACC at Virginia Tech, but he's also a draft prospect, comes from overseas, plays a really fun brand of basketball. His efficiency has kind of dipped through conference play. He's kind of struggling to get through the rigors of the college basketball schedule, but if he can have a big performance, which we know he's capable of, we've seen it this season, he could definitely get the Hokies in the mix of that game and cause some real problems for that Duke defense throughout it.
James Fletcher, we appreciate all the time. A wealth of knowledge on the NCAA tournament projections, bracketology, and more. We appreciate the time.
Always. Happy to be on.